Hi, I'm Otto at the Mysterious Bookshop in Tribeca in New York City, and happy to have you with us for our weekly talk about books, mysteries, writers, and collecting. The author I'm talking about today is is better known for his books are better known than he is. Somehow, his name doesn't resonate in the way that so many other hugely successful writers of the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s does, but everybody knows his books and the films made from them. I'm talking about W.R. Burnett, who was essentially the creator of the gangster novel when he wrote Little Caesar. Little Caesar is his first book, and here it is. It's quite a rare book. It's, of course, a Haycraft Queen cornerstone, and it was filmed as the first gangster film and made Edward G. Robinson's career. This is a very scarce book, a very scarce dust jacket, and one of the most important books in the history of American crime fiction because it invented the gangster novel, which became a hugely popular subgenre of mystery fiction. This is this is a fine copy. If you look at the condition of the book, in a very nice dust jacket. It's not a perfect jacket. It's got a little chipping at the top of the spine, and the corners have a little bit of chipping as well. But still, 1929, first edition of a very uncommon book, first novel, by Dial Press, which is not a huge printing. They didn't do huge printings in those days. And the title page, the copyright page, will show you that there's no second printing or anything else to suggest that it's anything other than a first. It is a first. It's an expensive book. It's $3,000, but dramatically less expensive than most copies that I've seen. He wrote quite a few books, some of which are very famous, such as The Asphalt Jungle. I don't have a first edition of the book because it sells pretty quickly whenever I get it. But what I do have is a very uncommon book. This is the screenplay that he wrote or co-wrote with John Huston, who directed it. This is a famous film, a caper film in which Sterling Hayden and a group of people, a group of criminals, plan this fabulous robbery, which has every reason to succeed, but they're thieves and criminals, and they double cross each other, and it all goes wrong. But it's a really famous and excellent film. So is High Sierra, which I also don't have a copy of. I wish I had every book, but I wouldn't have it because I would sell it. Everybody is interested in these books, especially books that are turned into film. It's a very common, very popular subject for collecting. Here's my favorite dust jacket. Check this out. This is also a Dial Press book. Lovely copy. I mean, it's just a tiny, tiny bit of wear at the top of the spine and on the corners. This also is Dial Press. And again, here's the copyright page. This is little bit later, so they do say first. It does say first printing, whereas the earlier book, Little Caesar, did not say first printing, but neither of them obviously shows any reason to think that they're second printings. Pardon me. This is 1930. It's the book it's 1 year after Little Caesar. It's not as famous as Little Caesar. It's not as important, but it's a beautiful copy of a really great vintage edition. It's $275. Later books become a lot less expensive, partly because here's Vanity Row, partly because they weren't made into films, they weren't as iconic as the first three books that I just talked about. This is 1952, and it's Knopf. Knopf was really good. They always said first edition when it was. In fact, they were so good that when they published British writers, they would say on the copyright page, first American edition, which a lot of publishers didn't bother to do. They would say first edition, even if it came out 6 months after the British edition. And this is a fine copy. Dust jacket has just a little bit of wear, as you can see up here. It's $65. This is 1952, so it's 70 years old. And Tomorrow is Another Day, the sequel to Nobody Lives Forever. They sound like James Bond titles, but they're not. This also is Knopf, and this is 1945, so it's a little thinner because in the years during World War II, there were paper shortages, and so they made thinner paper. So a lot of the books that you see from 1942, 3, 4, 5, 6 have thinner paper. They look like shorter books, but they're not. It's a full-length novel. And also, not a common book by any means. This also is 65. And then later, Underdogs. Once again, a Knopf book. And this is from, what year? 57. And it's just about a fine copy. And the copyright page, as Knopf always does, says first edition. And this is 35. And then a very late book, excuse me, this is from St. Martin's Press. St. Martin's Press, because this is much later, pardon me, 1981. St. Martin's, as I've pointed out in the past, modern ways of showing first editions on the copyright page show the number sequence that goes all the way down to number 1, so that shows that this is a first edition. It's essentially as new, and it's $20. He was also famous, this has nothing to do with books, or very little to do with books, also famous for writing screenplays, among which, among the most famous are Scarface, the original version back in the early 1930s, and then again it was filmed again later, as I'm sure you know, with Robert De Niro. And also he wrote the screenplay for Graham Greene's novel, which one was it? This Gun for Hire. So that's W.R. Burnett, who should be better known than he is. Thanks for watching.